I wanted to test out some 2D graphic animations with Flutter and Flame system. So I have a small test program here where we can inspect the sprites that we're using for the demonstration. So we can see how it looks in different circumstances. The sprites for the Flutter game were actually extracted from a 3D asset which was covered in a previous video using Unity. This tutorial focuses on using Flutter and Flame with the 2D assets. To follow this Flutter and Flame tutorial, you will need your own set of character assets. If you want to use the same asset that I'm using, the previous video explains how to generate this from a free 3D asset that's available on the Unity Asset Store. I'm initially going to just build this on Windows, so Flutter create -- platforms equals Windows, and then let's call it, so I'm calling my character Yomo. This is the name that I'm calling it for myself. You can create a name for your character. Let's call it whatever you want, and let's create it and change directory into it. So we're gonna have to do add flame, Flutter pub add flame. And in here, I'll make a directory for assets. And then I'll make another directory for images. Let's start our VS Code. Note that I'm using Flame version 1.5 in this tutorial. Flame is updated very rapidly, so there may be a difference in the Flame version by the time you watch this tutorial. So in the images folder, I'm going to create front. I'll create back. And then let's go left and right. So I have my sprites here, and I'm just going to copy them into the individual folder. So we'll have all our Yomo versions here. Front. We'll go left. And we'll go right. So this Yomo asset is free, but I do have for the background, I did buy this visual novel mega pack from Humble Bundle with a bunch of other assets. And I'm going to try to use this dark forest here. So I'm going to drag the dark forest into the images folder right there. I'll rename it background. pubspec.yaml. Go down to assets and comment it. Assets, images. I'll specify each individual directory. So we now have all the graphics that we need. We just need to start up our Flame game. So this is the default, rather long but nice Flutter example that came with it. We're going to delete everything. And the Flame package, so this run app requires a widget, right? And then the Flame package does have a widget that's called game widget. So instead of this run app calling a stateless widget, it's just going to call the game widget, which is from Flame here. And it's going to require a game to be instantiated. So what we're going to do is we're going to pass it. We're going to create a Yomo game. Yomo is the name of the character. So this is something that I created. Extends, and there's a keyword here, Flame game. And the Flame game is from Flame. So there's an auto import on line 1 for the Flame game. And now I can pass the game widget, the Yomo game instantiation. Okay. Now we should be able to run it here and hopefully get an all black screen. No errors in the debug console. All black screen, exactly what we want. The way Flame works is that there's a onload method. So I'm going to override the existing method, override with this decorator, overrides a keyword, and we are going to future void onload, and there's a capital L in the onload, and we'll go async, and we'll await super.onload. Okay, make sure that everything's still working. Perfect. No errors here. Everything's looking good. We can now add things here. So add is a keyword from Flame, and I'm going to add the a Sprite component, which is from Flame, and the Sprite component requires a sprite. So we're going to pass it to a sprite. I'm going to load the sprite from disk. There's a load sprite method from Flame, and the default is assets images, but I now have this background sprite in assets images. So let's try to load it. Background.jpg, and let's reload it. And now we have this background. It's kind of big, and there's only a portion of it. It doesn't really look like a forest. So I'm going to specify the size, right? So this does not look like this, right? This is just the upper portion here that we're seeing. So I'm going to make the size of it the same size. So there's a keyword on the sprite component here. If you mouse over, you can see there's a size right there. So we'll do a couple commas to make it easier to read. And along with the sprite, there is a property for size, and we're going to pass it the size. Okay, the second size here is the size of the Flame game. So this is from the Flame game. It's the size of the entire game. So I'm going to do hot restart, and now it looks like a forest. It looks exactly like the background, right, which is what we want. Just maybe slightly distorted, but I think for our purposes here, that's fine. We're going to focus on Yomo, our character, and hero of our story here. We're not going to do testing, so I'm just going to delete this. Get rid of that. And let's get Yomo in here. So to get started, this thing is in layers. So after this add, we'll just drop in a Yomo from maybe 0 here so that we can place Yomo, see what Yomo looks like. So we'll do add again. It's the same thing just to get you experienced with this. Sprite animation component, there's a sprite. We're going to load Yomo, right? So load sprite, keywords from Flame. And right here, we need Yomo, but Yomo's in a subdirectory right now. front, and it's going to be front 0 .png. And if we do this, there's Yomo. But Yomo is kind of large. I'm going to start Yomo off at half the size of the height of the screen. So we'll go size will be vector 2. It's a 2-position vector. And actually we'll do vector 2 all. And we'll have a size of y over 2. So hopefully Yomo will be half the size of the height of the screen. We're going to center Yomo with position. It's a 2-position vector, but we already know the size of the screen. Oops. So this should be right in the center. The center point of Yomo is right there. So we're going to specify the anchor of Yomo to be the center. We'll make it easier for us. Now Yomo is completely centered. By default, if you don't specify the anchor point is in the upper left-hand corner. But now we set the anchor point of Yomo in the center. So that's why Yomo is centered. Okay, let's make Yomo move. Instead of a sprite component, the component that moves is sprite animation component. It doesn't have a sprite, it has a animation, and we're going to need to build the animation. So it's from a list of sprites here. Step time we'll do 0.1. The sprites are built up to cycle through it maybe 10 times a second for the animation, but then we need the list of sprites here. So we could load each sprite individually, or we could build a for loop here. So ahead of this, I'm going to create an empty list of sprites. I'll call it front sprite. And then we have to get our list of sprites. So I'll go for int I equals 0, I is less than 10. So it's 0 to 9 right for the front. So that's 10 in all, and it'll be less than 10. So it'll go 0, 1, 2, 3, up to 9, and that's the amount of sprites that we got, and then we'll increment it. Whoops. We'll increment it, and within this we'll load the sprite. So front sprite, maybe we'll call it front sprites here. Front sprites. So Dart list, you can add to the list with the keyword add, that's from Dart. And then we're just going to load the sprite. So the different ways to load it, we'll just do this simple one, load sprite. And then we have the path, which is front. Same as here, right? But so you're coming up to this number, and we're going to use string interpolation. Do you know how to do it? Okay, it's $, that, right? You probably got it. Okay, and now we can pass in the list of sprites, front sprites. animation, and we'll put this, maybe I'll call it front animation, front animation, and we'll go front animation. We'll see whether Yomo moves. Yomo is moving. Go Yomo. So we're not going to move or change this. So we can probably go final for the sprite animation. And we're going to use actually a sprite animation group to switch between the different versions of Yomo. The Yomo to the left and the Yomo to the right. So we'll create the final Sprite Animation Group component. This is from Flame. We'll call it Yomo Character. Okay, now we need to set up the Sprite Animation Group component. We just have a single sprite animation at this point. So the Yomo character is the sprite animation group component, and there is a list of animations for Yomo, and there is a S. Unlike the sprite animation component, there are many animations here. So the animations will be this set here, and I'm going to set up an enum so we have the various states of Yomo. Right now there's only one state, but we will have more states. Enum, Yomo state, and then right now we'll have front. Yomo is facing to the front. Okay, we want to do that because in here we can now set up the various animations for Yomo using the state. So it's easier to read. And we just have one state of Yomo right now. And Yomo will be the front animation. There we go. The current Yomo will be the Yomo state front initially. And the size, we'll just grab the size from here. Oops. And the position and the anchor, we will grab it from here. So instead of the sprite animation component, we're going to add the Yomo character, which is the sprite animation group. And there's only one animation right now, but we're hoping for more Yomo action soon. Very good. It's still working. So let's add some additional Yomo action. I'm going to use a joystick component so that we can flip between the different animations. And on the mainflame-engine.org site, there's some great examples, API of the docs. There's also this wonderful GitHub repository in Flame. And I'll just show you how to grab it, right? So there's this examples, and within the examples, there's the lib. And you just keep going down. And now we have input. And there's this joystick example, which we're going to copy. So there's a joystick component, which is the joystick, and we will add this into our game. and they have their joystick here. So I'm just going to copy everything like right there. Path of least resistance, right? Just maybe I'll add the joystick at the end. Boom. I just need this basic palette. So I'm going to add the flame palette right here. These are my imports. There's no red. I just need to add the joystick. Add. And the component add is the joystick. Let's see whether the joystick is added. Oh, there's an error. I think I need to import has draggable. Okay, so I'm going to use a mixin right here with has draggables. Let's give it another shot here. No error. We have our joystick, but there's no motion because we need to hook it up. So let's go under the onload method here. So if you do that, you can see that it's matched up. There's also this nice little white line here, and this thing has a white outline box, so we know that this is the end of the onload. We're gonna have another method that's built into the Flame game, which is it is the update method. So there's a game loop built into Flame, double DT, and we will do the super update DT. And we're going to use this to check on the joystick. So name of our joystick is joystick, and it's the joystick component. We'll go if joystick dot relative delta, and because I don't want it to be too twitchy, I'm going to have it be greater than 4. Right? Maybe front. It will be down, so less than 0.4. Initially, I'll just do. Okay, I have this reversed. Move back. And so. Okay, move back, and so forward is okay. In the enum, let's add the left one. Where to go? Front, left. And we will load the left sprites. But the left sprites are only going from 0 to 8. So we will load 0, so it's less than 9, right? So it's going to go up to 8, and it's going to load it here. We have our YOMO state dot left now, and we'll assign it to the left. Oh, did it build the animation? It didn't build the animation. So final sprite animation left animation equals sprite animation sprite list, and then we have our sprites, which are the front sprites, and we'll set the step time the same to 0.1. And now we have our animation for the left, which is the left animation, and okay. So just continue on with this. Else if joystick dot relative delta dot x, so left would be less than minus 0.4, then we will attempt to switch it to Yomo character dot animation equals left animation. Actually, I forgot we're using a sprite animation component. So it's current equals Yomo state dot left. Let's see whether this works. And Yomo cannot move left because I forgot an underline someplace. Left. Okay, we'll try to make Yomo also move to the front with more control. Yomo character dot current equals Yomo state dot front, and see whether it works. So it should be left. Okay, let's create the one for the back. And the back has 9 as well too. So 0 to 9 will be 9, right? Oh, I see the problem. Haha. Back animation equals need a back sprites YOMO state dot back, and YOMO back is not in the enum. Back and is the back animation. And okay. So now, instead of moving back, we will YOMO character dot current equals YOMO state dot back. And there's no frames. Back sprites. Back, left, front. Okay, let's do the right. So we'll create the right and list sprite, right, sprites. Okay, got the empty list. And now I'm going to copy it. Hopefully this time I remember to change everything. Right, right sprites, right animation, and load the right sprites, and we'll have it YOMO state dot right colon right animation, and we'll do else if so right would be the joystick dot relative delta dot x is greater than 0.4. Then we'll set the YOMO character dot current equals YOMO state dot right. Okay, we just need a YOMO state dot stop, and for the stop I'm just going to use a single sprite here. So I think I'm still going to put it as a animation, but there'll just be a single sprite. So that would be stop. The final sprite animation stop animation equals sprite animation sprite list, but there's only one. There's only going to be one sprite here. And I guess I'll set the step time to the same. Load sprite, and we'll grab it from front and front 0. PNG. So else we will stop it. And there's no YOMO. That's because there's no state for stop YOMO state dot stop and colon stop animation. Okay, YOMO is stopped. YOMO is going to the right, left, back, and down. I think I want YOMO to be a bit bigger in the initial stage. So instead of dividing it by 2, I'll multiply 80% of the height, and YOMO will be a square. Kind of, for the purpose of testing, you can really see the sprite character a little bit better here. So it'd be easy to add more features, like we could make YOMO move here, but I think I'll stop it here. Maybe I'll just show you quickly how to make it move. So we got the relative delta here, right? So this is probably left and right is probably better, right? So it's actually very simple. So it's YOMO character dot position equals YOMO character dot position plus joystick relative delta dot x. Actually, the YOMO character actually it has an X position, so yeah. See whether YOMO moves at all. And we can do the same thing. It's the same line. What happened? Now YOMO's moving left and right, and if you want to make them move up and down, it's basically the same thing, except it's Y for the Y-axis. Let's see if YOMO can move. YOMO goes back, YOMO goes left, YOMO goes right, YOMO stays forward, YOMO stops, YOMO goes forward, back. YOMO looks good. So I'm going to stop the video here. I just wanted some framework to test out what the character look like, because there's a bunch of these free assets that you can look into, right? And you could select characters, I think somewhere. And there's other sites, right, like this ArtStation or this Turbo Squid, where you can get the 3D asset and then make your own sprite sheet. So I'm kind of experimenting with this technique here of looking for some assets and then rigging the character and putting it out into sprite sheets. So this one, I think I'm going to make a little start around a ghost, and maybe the ghost will explore and find things. So have a great day. Subscribe to the channel for future updates, and have fun while you're learning about Flutter and Flame.